Live from the internet, this is the Crystal Chronicles, your number one rated Final Fantasy Dissidia Opera Omnia podcast. This is episode 52, May 2nd, 2019. We welcome you all listening online, joining us on Twitch, or watching or listening later through the week. I am your host, Mark, and I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mino Spellgood. How you doing, Mino?
Wow, that was quite a lead up. I'm exhausted. I did coffee way too early today. I'm already feeling the crash, and now I'm supplementing that with booze. So let's see if I make it through this episode. It's going to be interesting.
And as we found out last week, our friend Pierre is stepping down from the game and from the podcast recordings, although he is still producing our content for us, so we appreciate that. Shout out to Pierre. But joining us is our good friend and yours, the professor of Dissidia, Kriese, a.k.a. Sir Rank.
Hello, I'm doing well tonight too. I'm doing better than Mino, it sounds like.
I'm tired.
The professor of evaluation. I don't know. I'm still working on it. I'm focusing.
Professor Kriese. I'm just calling him Professor Kriese from now on.
Well, gentlemen, did we have a good week? Are we excited about the strange amount of content this week and the jam-packed amount of content coming within the next week?
It's been really revitalizing to the community, that's for fucking sure. Ever since it dropped last night, wow. I mean, because usually nobody talks for a while until now. Today's people have been talking nonstop since.
There's been a lot of chatter
Heretics.
today, yeah.
Yeah, and about a lot of exciting. People are excited about the future. They are excited about the design of this content, and this is just a small taste too. We're getting more on Sunday, along with an event, and then the very hyped Kuja is coming on Wednesday, I believe. So this is going to be a very, very packed week.
Don't forget we have World of Illusion co-ops coming tonight, so
Woohoo!
content has been trickling out at a nice pace the last week or two, I'd say. Last
I
week.
told you guys, have faith. Slow months are followed by busy months.
So we have a little bit of news in game. There was some things that were changed, but the big thing is we got our first monthly panel. Now we had the tutorial panels here last week, but we received 2 days ago, yesterday, our first monthly mission panel, the early May panel. Not the late May panel, which we'll also get. So in Japan, they get about 2 panels a month. It looks like we're going to get 2 panels a month. I have my panel up here. This is what it looks like on my camera. If you go to your missions, it is that little thing in the side with the Chocobo called panel missions. So these are interesting. What do you guys think about these crazy missions where you have to use specific characters or kill way too many ghosts?
I hate it because it's telling me to run 25 co-ops. I think I run not even half that normally, and I hate grinding co-ops.
You
For
can
shame,
see on
Nino.
mine. Here we go. How many
Honestly,
co-ops do I
hate
have?
That's the whole reason our drunken stream
0.
started, because
0.
I needed to drink and have company to do these
0.
co-ops. Otherwise, I'd never be motivated to do it. Also, Watabu says, I was hoping the panel would have weapon tokens. It does have a weapon token.
It
right?
does. Yeah, for 25 co-ops.
I think each board comes with 1 weapon token following JP trends, and we've been getting that so far as well. So that's an extra 2 a month, maybe 3.
Yeah, there is Gil, Stamina Potion, Chocobo Feathers, upgrade material, gems, a weapon token, a artifact, and tome, or artifact, the support material, and then 2 tickets. And then, of course, you get gems for completing the thing.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if it was the case for ours this week. I don't think so. But I know in JP, it's usually tied with the newest content release, so you don't have to really go out of your way to do it. For example, if they release a story chapter, it'll be kill X amount of enemies that show up in this story chapter, and you can almost get it just by playing normally. I don't think GL. I think you have to go kind of out of your way for GL, right? Ghosts and
Well,
skeletons.
People are
skeletons will probably be showing up in the Barrett event at least a little bit as side enemies because of Tifa's presence, and Maria is boosted for Barrett's event, so it makes sense to include her.
Oh, you're right. And Rosa event. I don't know if that comes out within 2 weeks. Probably not. But I
No,
know that's ghost heavy. Um.
yeah, we only have 12
But
days to finish this, so
yeah, they're probably gonna show up in the co-ops.
but yeah,
Maybe.
people are already sharing here in the Twitch chat. Sabin Lost Chapter, Ico Lost Chapter, World of Illusions has tons of ghosts. I don't know. Like just normal World of Illusions has ghosts and skeletons. There's
the Orbs and
crystal
Crystal
events.
Springs tend to
Yep.
have them, yeah.
So
Basically, there's a lot of options if you want to go out of your way to grind it. Hopefully, just playing the game regularly throughout 2 weeks gets you 90% of the stuff, which
yeah.
I think it's designed just to get you to check out new content.
Or potentially use characters or summons you might not normally use while you're doing normal stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing
All
too
right.
special there, but it's nice to have extra rewards.
Moving right along, we had some new banners. I'm not really sure why did we get these. These are event banners. Is it for the Heretics?
They were released with the Heretic, yes,
Well,
but I don't think anyone was expecting these banners.
We got 2 event banners. One has Dark Knight Cecil, Galoff, and Preesh with Dark Knight Cecil's EX, and the other has Terra, Garnet, and Papa Lemo with Terra's EX. Now remember, no one is synergy in these Heretics, so... And these are perhaps the worst 2 EXs you could currently have. So
That's why they had to rerun them now. Because they're only going to get worse as time goes on.
Some people have pulled.
Is Cecil's one of the worst EXs? I mean, it's strong. It's slow charging, but it's strong.
It is strong.
It's slow. It's too slow charging. Like, you're only going to realistically see it in these fights maybe twice tops.
That's the big issue. It is strong. He is not very good right now because he just doesn't have a lot of longevity or potency. And yes, he is very, very slow charging. B-Dog 345, see how I think I got that right? B-Dog 345 asked, is Terra's EX strong? Terra's EX may be arguably the worst EX. It's not terrible for Terra. I have it. I have Terra's EX, and I have.
It's terrible. Let me cut you off there, because I've used so many Terra EX assists back when it came out, and holy crap! Like, you do not want to use it at all. Meteor does more damage and gives you better buffs, and there's no reason to use that EX. Every time I use it,
both of her regular abilities are as if not more potent. And, and also give similar buffs. The thing is, it's just an extra ability, so she doesn't.
It's an extra ability, and it gives her a stronger Max Brave.
It
buff
does
for
give her a
herself.
stronger.
That's the 2 strengths of it.
Trash.
It's the worst EX that they've released. I think everyone can agree on that.
It's slated for the EX Plus rework tuning pass in JP in less than 2 weeks.
Here's the thing. Besides Garnet, who I still use, and Galoff maybe situationally, and I have all of these characters fully limit broke. I have every single one of these characters MLB'd, all right? These are not characters people are using right now. Why is this a full price draw? Why were these not free draws, or at least half price draws? I literally do not get... I mean, none of the characters are bad. They're semi-usable, and you could use them all in these current Heretics, especially the lower levels. But comparatively, they're not top 20 characters right now. Maybe Garnet.
Wadabu and Quetzalma, who play JP and are server regulars, said that even in JP, an EX has yet to be half off ever. Even when JP reran EX banners, they were never
always
half
full
off.
price. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Okay. What about? I thought I heard Noctis's Lost Chapter release because it only had the original weapons on it. Was half price. Was I
Oh,
wrong
okay.
there?
I don't know. Someone has to confirm that, but so far people are saying,
Wadabu is saying it was full price. Noctis LC was for full price, so I
Huh.
must be mistaken.
yeah.
Well,
So if you didn't pull on Noctis before, it's the same thing in the future. So don't get your hopes up.
oh yeah, wait, JP did have the second year anniversary banners that were all free, right?
Yeah. So they're saying free. They'll give free banners, but like we
Oh,
got
not half
free.
off. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Japan
I
never got any half off banners if they included an EX at this point in their
eh,
lifespan.
Yeah.
I'm just not really sure what the purpose of these banners is, I guess. Now there's
I
co-op
mean,
coming and then there's more Heretics coming, so we'll see. Maybe there's reworks coming. I mean, early
it
Dark Knight
makes
Cecil or early Terra rework, maybe.
They'd be too strong.
They would
no
be
way.
too strong, but who knows,
But I
right?
mean, like, it makes sense to me because for Heretics, you need to pad your roster. Here's more stuff,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
this is the only time they can re-release what are considered the two worst EXs because they're only going to get worse over time. So why not now?
So see how
The
we
characters
spent
on them are not particularly great for enticing people to pull.
Right.
Papalimo's still good. Garnet without her EX, I'd argue, is a little weaker. She's good,
Yeah.
but not great. Galuf still has his place. Preesh without her EX is not very strong. So it's a weird choice.
I mean, they fit the Heretics. You got Papa for the ice one, Garnet for the water, Galoof for the physical one. You know, whatever. They'll work. If you're a brand new player, these will probably get you some of the clears on the 40-80 stages.
All right, so see how we spent more time talking about that than we should have.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
Moving on to our event, we talked about it a little bit last week as it was launching as we podcasted, but we had an event, if you don't remember, called Treasure Hunting featuring a new character, Locke. So we have a member of the team here with a fully limit broke EX wielding Locke. So, Kriese, can you tell us what your experience of the treasure hunting Locke is?
Locke is a very fun character to play. He's relatively strong for where we are right now, but he's definitely not the best. Characters like Bart's, and I think maybe even Thancred, can outpace him for raw damage. But he brings some interesting things to the team, with his two biggest ones being the fact that he can provide a party heal with his 35 CP on his second ability, and the Brave Break bonus on his EX weapon is huge. It's a lot of hidden power that I think people won't realize unless they're looking for it. But Locke alone provides as much of a brave, brave break bonus as Bahamut does once it's fully built up. And that makes a difference in longer fights where you're using him for a while. He also has enough abilities that he can keep going. His mug ability is very useful for getting the Miracle Shoes buff. If it wasn't random, it would be a lot better. And in general, it's just very satisfying to play with Locke. He's what I imagine people who got Noctis when he dropped felt like when they were playing with him. I didn't pull on Noctis, so I don't have that first-hand experience.
I want to say that I used Krise's Locke just for shits and giggles throughout this Heretic.
Me too.
And for the in Bahamut and EX damage up, he does really good damage. That's probably he's not a bad friend unit at all, and he also does a heal and battery, and his animations are very good. So I think Locke fans must be very happy because like I think they did a good job with the character in general. They just got to make him stronger, which is inevitable as the game marches on. He's
Right now he's strong enough that he can hold his own, I think, for the next couple of events. People who pulled for him will be able to use him.
Right. Like he's viable for a month, which, as I always say, viable for a month is worth it, especially if it's a favorite. I would pull for something viable for a month, honestly, like Kuja or who did I do? There are certain characters that really surprised me. Garnet with EX, etc. Oh, and people in chat are saying we got CSAM and Wadabu saying that they used Garnet without EX on the water Heretics, even the 81, no problem. So for being made for these heretics, I think that's good. Any
I
new player could
used
probably pull that and
I
clear
used
that no
Garnet
problem.
and oh no, did I use Lightning or Terra?
Uh, Garnet.
No. I was thinking who did I enchant with Garnet's water
Oh,
element? I enchanted Lightning, and that was terrifying for that poor character, for that poor boss. Anyway, that's a different
yeah,
conversation.
I think solo Garnet could probably carry the water heretics with the enchant.
Yeah, you're not going to solo it. She doesn't do that much damage, but she is great. I love Garnet. I have EX and fully limit broke. But yeah, I think I brought Locke to.
Did I lose connection? Hello?
No, you're here. Mino, can you hear us?
Nope.
No, I lost you guys for a second.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I brought Locke several times through my various battles with this EX battle because we were trying to outdo each other's scores for a while this week. I think I got him past 70,000 damage in summon. I mean, he can do considerable damage.
Oh yeah,
Which is
especially
nice.
with his EX ability, he can
Yeah.
just dish out the damage. He hits enough times that he can cap himself fast.
Yeah.
And he has a decent amount of Brave Overflow on the EX to help.
Yeah. Good. What about what do we want to do first?
Oh, sorry. Quick random aside. I said Wadabu and CSAM. It was CSAM and Eamon. They're just letting me know in chat I got the wrong people.
You
Well,
suck.
I'm sleep deprived and drunk, so moving on.
I've been sleep deprived for 7 years.
Yeah,
Yes,
kids,
moving
right?
on is the level 100 EX battle, which I'm trying to go back through. Locke EX. We had some fun this week trying to outscore each other because this was a pretty good EX fight. I felt it was fairly easy to beat. And easy enough that we felt like I could play it several times without much, pain. So, what did you guys feel about this? You're fighting something. It's been so long, I don't even remember. What you're fighting a big bird, right?
Dark Phoenix.
Necro Raven is the name.
The
Same
Necro
thing.
Raven. It is a Dark Phoenix. Yes, it is weak to ice, lightning, and ranged. And has the two things where it goes high and then it goes low. But
it's also weak to melee while it's low, so
yes,
that's a
weak
good
to
chunk of the
melee
fight.
while it was low. Yep.
It was a nicely balanced event. We said, event and LCEXs moving forward at this point are gonna pretty much stay at this level of manageable until Cosmos hits. Because the EX battles are gonna stay at the same level while the characters get more and more powerful to a ridiculous degree. But it's a nice break. I know a lot of people were talking about quitting after the Hell month we just had, and this is a nice pace. I think people are overall more happy with this difficulty.
Yeah.
And Mark and I and Matarasu on our server like to race scores. I got left behind.
Yeah. How did that go?
Yeah. But I mean, like, this is a good level of difficulty, and the Heretics are continuing that, as we'll touch upon soon. So
Yeah, I felt this EX was fair enough that since I brought a Locke fully kitted out, I had no issues going in blind and
Right.
completing everything. But even if I hadn't had Locke, I felt like it was fair enough. I could have swapped him out for someone else and still completed it with a little bit of strategy in mind.
I did a run with Waka, so
nice.
that should tell you something.
It tells me that it's better when they make these bosses weak to multiple things, so you can bring all kinds of wacky characters
instead of making them resistant to half the things, so you can't bring most of your roster.
Yeah,
basically,
right.
Yeah.
Although I think Setzer was MVP in this event. If you didn't have
for
Locke,
the co-op, definitely. Setzer
the
was
co-op
God.
was Setzer's event. 3 Setzers to rule them all was pretty much how that co-op went. Yeah, my high score was Setzer.
Yeah,
Beatrix,
I stopped bringing
and,
Setzer because
Bart.
it was too boring, so I started bringing Locke so I could have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, my high score was Setzer, Beatrix, and Bart's. So it was pretty good, and something ridiculous like 44 turns. So not the longest compared to the 90 turn the 90 turn battle that we had with the last thing trying to beat it in 90 turns. This was certainly not as difficult as it was.
And in
Yeah.
a nice touch, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Barett event coming Sunday. All three of those events are good for the LC, so that's nice synergy.
Yeah.
I think Barrett's boss is also weak to ranged melee again.
Right. I think you saying that, or maybe that's Rosa's. We'll find out. I don't have it.
I don't know.
I don't have it
Studied
in
yet.
front of me. You know what I didn't put in the outline was we got a new permanent World of Illusion this week, Bahamut. And if you can't beat that EX, maybe play the game a few more weeks.
That was a very political way to put that.
I mean,
Bahamut is a relatively straightforward World of Illusion. For newer players, the Bahamut boss in the EX fight could be a little scary if you don't know about some of
yes.
his mechanics, like summoning and him countering with Cure and Mega Flare, but otherwise it
Yes.
shouldn't be too difficult.
Yes, and remember the Bahamut that you fight in the EX fight, his regeneration makes him immune to debuffs. So, you can't silence or pin him down. That being said, I beat that EX fight in 16 turns on my first try. I feel like you can probably hit that 25,000 and 105 turn limit. Actually, I think if you get 105 turns, you're probably dead. Unless you brought, Celeste or somebody to absorb all that. Yeah. So, and I brought Locke as my friend unit. So
The big advantage of this World of Illusion dropping is that the newer players who missed out on Bahamut back in December, now finally have a chance to get him leveled up and have a solid summon option for every event that is not going to be niche.
Yeah, you read my mind. We had a lot of new players on our server talking about that. They felt like they were left out a lot because Bahamut was used for months and months of endgame content clear, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, so it is really good that Bahamut is available to all players now because it is one that definitely sees a lot of use these days, although Brothers and Efreet and Pandemonium still see use. Our final one, probably not, Diablos.
And then
Diablos is too niche. Also, one thing before we move on to more World of Illusions is this did come with a weekly banner for us with the World of Illusion weapons for Vaughn and Yuna on it.
So Vaughn's weapon is particularly useful if you have Vaughn's full kit. I mean, there are some times like here in these Heretics where I brought my Vaughn without an EX and he's still doing good, and I have Vaughn's World of Illusion weapon, which increases his max brave and attack when he breaks a target or is attacking a broken
just
target.
When he breaks.
Or just when he breaks a target, it increases his attack.
He has to break.
Yeah. So it is that little extra boost is helpful, of course. So if you have his EX weapon and you use him, it's not a bad thing to maybe throw a few tickets at. Again, how long is Vaughn going to stick around here from this point? And Eunice, poor Yuna. That's all I'm going to say about Eunice. Yuna's World of Illusion weapon. Just in general.
Are you saying that Yuna is worse than Hope?
Well, if we get with her, well, I would never say anyone is worse than Hope. First of all, if we get her early rework or some kind of thing with her costume, maybe Yuna will have a little bit of time to shine. But her World of Illusion weapon is still garbage, regardless of any of that. But there are some good World of Illusion weapons, so including Bart's. If you have Bart's full kit, Bart's is one of the more useful current World of Illusion weapons. So when that releases, I'm sure a lot of people are going to try to pull. I haven't decided if I'm going to try to chase that. for that extra
They've
10%.
kept the pattern where these World of Illusion banners have been half price with their repeat weapons.
Yeah,
So it might be worth at least one toss to see if you
right.
get lucky. If you have enough gems saved up that you're not worried about that.
I'm not sure. I'm feeling a little uneasy in my gym count right now. All right.
You only have about 200,000 or something.
I'm at 192.5. So yeah.
And then don't forget Kuja on Wednesday with costume. So that's another 9K.
Another
right
9K,
there.
right? No doubt. If I buy that costume, which I will. So moving on to not events, but to discussion topic. Last Dreamy posted on Reddit a different kind of tier list that I thought maybe we just talk about briefly. If you haven't looked at it, go check it out. Let me share the post on Twitch here real quick. If you haven't seen Last Dreamies, I believe Last Dreamy is a acquaintance of Quetz, one of our friends and helpers on the show here. So I believe Last Dreamy is somebody who Quetz knows from his Discord server and also helped work on this. So it's a tier list, and so we can talk about tier lists. But I thought it was really interesting because he organized it, of course, by tiers and colors. But he also shares in this one kind of image what each of the characters does. So each character has like an outline, and then around the outline you kind of see what that character does, which I thought was really helpful. I mean, we're getting on towards 90 characters, I believe, in our roster. 89, yeah. So with Barett, we're gonna have 90 characters, and sometimes you just forget, like, oh, that person does this debuff, or oh, that person is a good option for range or for support or for healing. We were talking about
the character does
healing.
nothing like Cyan.
And then there's some characters that are just worthless, and you can see, oh yeah, that character is worthless. Or you can see, oh, what does that character do? Oh, they're just DPS, so they don't do anything besides damage. But yeah, Cyan doesn't have a lot going on his window, does he? Poor guy. But Kuja doesn't either, and he'll just be horrible DPS.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on the tier list. Number one, I think it was a nice strategy to try to organize the characters and put some nice visual cues on what they do. What benefits do they bring to the team? Because I think that's the most important thing that one of these things can do that would help someone outside of yourself. Characterizing what the characters can do, especially with this wide roster, can be very difficult. And this visual makes it clear that if you're looking for a character that can bring something to the team, you can quickly skim down the list and say, okay, what characters can I use? And that's great. On the other side, however, I want to point out that this list is specifically called as Dreamy's tier list. This isn't a global opinion on tier lists, and in fact, I would disagree with several of the positions of characters on here. But I'm not going to shoot down his opinions because it is his tier list, and he is entitled to his opinion. So I think that's what people need to keep in mind is he can rank them how he feels they belong, and as long as they remember this is an opinion and not the truth, it should be okay.
That's a great point, Kriese. If we had more personal tier lists come up, people could cross-reference. But I know that when it came out, there's a lot of people who are already linking it as fact. But just everything Kriese said, it's all opinions. You're free to your own. Without
it
commenting,
is also titled as Dreamy's tier list. It's very clear that it is a specific person's opinion on a tier list, and it should be kept in that context.
He specifically says it too, so that's really good. That he makes that distinction. The only comment that I want to add to this whole thing is I personally think that I don't believe in tier lists for this game specifically because content changes on a week-to-week basis, and that content is tailored to exclude most of the roster and favor whoever's synergy. And I think you can even tell that when every time a new character pops up in JP on Ultima, that new character is top tier. Without fail. Every time a new character gets a new buff or releases, that character is at least S tier, if not SS in JP. And I think like games like this that are specifically designing content to encourage you to pull for the newest thing, you can't really make a tier list on. Because if you do, not only are you tailing it to the newest content that's biased, but you're gonna have to say the hardest content in the game right now favors this synergy character that the fight is built for. And yeah, that's why I just don't like to follow tier lists for this game.
Yeah, it's kind of that's part of the question I wanted to say is, what's the value of tier lists, especially in this game? There are arguably some characters that are just good. And there are characters that are going to stick around. I mean, Beatrix, obviously. Beatrix has been good, is still good, may still continue to be good for a little while, going on for months. So arguably, Beatrix is a top tier character and certainly was a top tier character. But yeah, now there's lots of characters that are good right now. And as content changes or particular fights, there are going to be characters that are, focused on the different fights that they're part of.
Yeah.
I do want to highlight something that you mentioned as a little aside. People are saying that Beatrix is S tier still. And remember, she came out at the beginning of February, which means she has been meta for 3 months as of tomorrow or something, which is an extreme amount of time staying prevalent.
Yes. To answer that, first of all, my defense of that is that Beatrix was unplanned.
No, right.
She's planned for a JP release in July. Content, all the content coming out since her release did not factor Beatrix in.
Right.
So I think that's why she's escaped the power creep for now.
Well, and 3 months means that she was more viable. We talk about the Zaz era where Zaz was such a meta breaking character
because he was unplanned, exactly, right?
But
like he was
he didn't last.
I think the difference
months.
between Beatrix and Saz, though, is that Beatrix is still ostensibly a damage dealing character. She brings some buffs to the team and makes them better, but Saz wasn't really damage. He was just make everyone better, period, the end, which meant that he made characters. He was such a force multiplier at the time of his release. He made content either too easy or content to be too hard so that he had to struggle.
Right. And then as Mark said, there's always going to be a few characters that escape the meta because they just come up with such a good idea that they can't balance it. For example, I'm trying to think of a
Selfie's another one.
Selfie, there you go. Selfie. Huge batteries, huge heals. All her attacks ignore defenses and resistances, so she was able to skate by for a while.
She only started falling off once we got to a situation where we needed to shave Brave, and she could not do that.
Exactly. And then, there's a few more in our lifespan, like VIII coming up is going to be someone who it was impossible to balance around because he gets unlimited ability uses and free turns. And then right now in JP, the broken for a long time is Ultimecia, who just gets nonstop free turns back to back to back.
Don't forget about reworked Warrior of Light, too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Warrior of Light. Oh. But the point is...
But again, all that can change. I think, looking back, it's easy to see, okay, Zaz was very viable for a couple months. Selfie has been viable for several months. As, Aiko was viable for a while, and now she's viable again. Beatrix was, has been viable for several months. Those are your top tier characters. If you can figure out which characters are going to be viable for more than a month, that character is a good investment. Right now, is that Bart's? Well, it's hard to tell because we got Bart's earlier.
Bart's is working.
But we got Bart's earlier.
Bart's has a lot of benefits going for him. He's not a pure damage. He brings a lot of party battery. He brings a lot of party auras. And that gives him a lot of usefulness, the same way Selfie was useful for a long time. It wasn't... I mean, what she did was she batteried the party and she provided a lot of invisible buffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Bart's is a Selfie that can shave, especially with gravity, no matter how high the enemy's Brave is, right?
I think someone right after rework intentionally capped the hard mode Arc 2 Chapter 1 boss that absorbs Holy just to show how much could be shaved in a single turn by Bart's. And it was like 90% of its brave when it was capped.
Oh yeah.
and the last thing I just want to say is basically throughout JP's 2+ year run, they've had maybe 4 game breaking characters. PL might get more because we have time travelers on purpose so that we can't plan around these 4 or so characters like Bart's and Saw's. But ultimately, if anyone's playing JP right now or following JP, you can see a trend. And that's that all these characters launch at top tier and then they get immediately destroyed. Because if you look up in the database or if you ask any JP player, Leon EX came out and everyone thought, this is so broken, they can't power creep this. Because what he does is he enchants all enemy attacks as dark and then makes it so that all his teammates absorb dark. So it's like, how do you beat that? Well, the answer is the next month and a half, every enemy was immune to dark.
Yep.
And then the same with Sabin, which is what we were talking about before the show, is that Sabin now enchants and imperils all enemies to Holy and Wind, and everyone's like, wow, he does so much damage. Then the next 3-4 events, all the enemies were either absorbed or were immune to that element. So the game is extremely biased, and they make it a point to shut down these characters. They want these characters to shine, so you pull, and then immediately make them worthless. So that's why I don't think tier lists work for this. What are you going to say, Kriese? Sorry.
I seem to recall you also mentioned that happened with Vincent once he got his EX plus. And
every character
he was heralding, empowering, fire and lightning, and then everything was immune to fire and lightning.
Well, and then what happens if you release a character with a very broken mechanic like Leon, and then the next month or month and a half, none of the content does anything against dark, then a month and a half he's not viable anymore just because he's not keeping up with the damage or the current content. So if you can shut a character down, then but why I don't know why do that. I mean,
I also want to highlight that while they've been doing this, they've also been giving older characters a chance to shine. So it's not just the new characters that are being OP. It's newer characters coming back and either getting their EX plus or getting new EX weapons for the first time and getting a chance to shine again. It hasn't been always pull for this brand new character that just arrived.
It is interesting looking from, so if we look from where we are now until, let's say, Ultimacia, because I have a pretty good scope of what that timeline looks like, which will be pretty much till the end of the year for us. So if we look from now until the end of 2019, there are some really powerful characters who are going to come out. But there's also a lot of characters who kind of just are dead on arrival. So it's not like every single character that's coming out is better and better and better and better. There are some characters kind of like Barett who, they're not bad, but they're also really not good. So you can pretty much skip them, right? And then there's some that are a little bit more, like Rosa. That Rosa's good, but Lena's coming out the next month, so... Well, do you want to pull for Lena when 2 weeks later, or Rosa when 2 weeks later, kind of a character that does the same thing but better is coming out? Yeah.
Let me tackle what you said really quick, and also what Illuminasa says in chat, because they make a very good point. First is you said, well, what's the point of coming up with this character to invalidate them? Well, one is to get people to impulsively pull and spend money, right? From a business standpoint, it's ingenious. And if it was too strong, then they wouldn't need to pull for another month or so. And a gacha game wants people to spend money every week.
Yeah.
The second thing is JP has permanent ticks now. So what we got right now is a small taste of what's to come. He has permanent no synergy heretics, meaning you constantly have to have a wide roster to complete it. So just because you can't use them in limited time events going forward, you can still use them as a tool for this permanent content where you're forced to use all different characters all the time. And then Illuminasa says, I don't think this invalidates them. Just because the next few events makes them useless doesn't mean they can't be useful in the future. That's why team building and investments are worth it, which I believe is a very good point.
Yeah, they can only invalidate so many mechanics at a given time without making the game broken completely. So there will be a time where there will be enemies that Vincent can take advantage of again, and then he will show up. He won't be as strong as the current
Right.
EX pluses probably, but
Well,
he'll have a chance to shine again.
I mean, that's the point that I was getting at. If they can, if there's a month that passes, then the current characters that are coming out are just going to have that much more potency, right? So they're going to be competing with that. That doesn't.
It
mean
also
that they
depends
won't
on the
be able to
level of
help.
power creep too. Remember, we were on a very flat slope for a while.
Mm-hmm.
After early awakenings, where power creep was happening, but it wasn't happening at such a substantial pace where earlier characters were getting completely invalidated unless they just arrived dead on arrival.
Yeah, like Tifa. Anyway, that brings us to our current event that just dropped less than 24 hours ago. Our non-synergy Heretics Power and Magic Chasm Alpha, Catalyst and Rising. So, there are two different events up right now. One is Catalyst, which contains 4 levels. And if you don't know, the Heretics, you have to bring different characters into each one. You cannot repeat the characters that you are using. These are non-synergy, so there is no repetition at all. That means you cannot repeat characters at all for these first 4. That means you need 12 characters, 12 different unique characters. So the first set is quests of 40 and then a power and magic chasm that you can use any characters for. Once you complete perfect, get perfect scores in the first 4, it unlocks the 5th. With a level 60, those are fairly simple, fairly straightforward. If you've never done Heretics before, those are a good way to cut your teeth on how they work. And then in the same bosses, so that's helpful. And then the Rising event, the more challenging one, has 4 quests, level 80. And again, you have to get perfect scores in each one. That perfect score means you have to get all of the mission requirements the first time or at one time. So if you do that, you get a perfect. And if you get perfects, then it unlocks the final one, which is a level 100 quest. And in the level 100 quest, you fight all the bosses. So you fight a Sand Kraken, a Heretic Cavalier, a Antlion, and a Skull Dragon Soul. Each of them has different resistances. Each of them has different mechanics. And so the idea behind the Heretics, again, if you're not familiar, is to try to create a team that will address each of the mechanics as needed. I'm not sure. Did I just drop there? Can you guys still hear me?
No. Sorry,
That was Mino that dropped.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was reconnecting.
Okay.
Let's edit that out, Pierre, when you do the
Yeah.
final thing. But I'm getting some lag here, so I'm intermittently dropping in and out. I was trying not to make it noticeable.
Yeah.
But sorry, did I interrupt, Mark?
No. I heard it in my mic. I didn't know if that was me or you.
Hmm.
All right. So I've been having a lot of fun with this. I can talk about what I did, but how are your guys' first 24 hours with Heretics? And I want to remind everyone that these Heretics are around for the entire month. You have 27 days to finish these, and there will be another set coming 3 days from now, which we'll talk about then. Theta. Or is it Delta? Or is this Delta? Anyway, I don't know.
I'll briefly talk on mine. Mine will be short because I haven't actually done the Rising portion yet. I was busy last night. I've been pretty busy today, so I've only had a chance to try out the Catalyst, the easier version. And it was very straightforward. I was able to put together teams for each of the 40s pretty easily and get through the 80 without much difficulty.
Yeah. Yes,
Or
this
60,
is
sorry.
this is Delta. The next is Theta. Thank you. Hate 8. 813. Hate 8. Why do I say 8? Hate 13. So, or as Mino says, Hayate XIII.
Sorry, Kriese, did we cut you off?
No,
I was done. I just said that I haven't done the Rising yet, so I can't really speak on the difficulty or how much challenge it is.
Well, let me
Uh,
share. Oh, go ahead, Mino, if you have some initial
oh,
thoughts.
I was gonna say, the community reception to this has been really great, very positive. Amens in our chat and Discord is already sharing their opinion, saying, but the general vibe is with the 40s and even the 80s included, is that they're very forgiving, and because they're no synergy heretics, they really force you to use 12 different characters
Yeah.
for newcomers and veterans alike. People have been having a blast because they're able to pull out characters they've long since benched and clear it and have fun using those characters again and being forced to use those characters. So early no synergy heretics was great. They first hit JP in second anniversary. It seems that they're bringing them early to GL, and if they start doing this regularly, because in JP they've been getting new ones every month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the dev team is going to go put in that much that we get 6, 7 more than JP got if they start doing it monthly from here on out. But it is such a good injection of life into the game because people are saying, "Oh, it's so fun to use old characters. It's so fun to use characters I never thought I would use, and I want to pull their weapons now. Plus, it's not too punishing." So I think it's been a great move overall. How about you, Mark?
I've really enjoyed it, and we're going to talk about the call to arms, Macnol's call to arms, and a couple other things. But just to give you an idea, if you haven't taken on the Rising Challenge yet, what I used for my 4 teams, and then I'll tell you what I did to get high score. I used in the Water Chasm for the Sand Kraken, I used water characters. And my basic approach was, just to give you a sense of how I was thinking about this, my basic approach was bring a support character and bring 2 characters that can deal with the weakness. So we had a water weakness, we had a malady and ice weakness, we had a magic weakness, and we had a melee and skeleton weakness. But I wasn't bringing Tifa. So just a melee weakness was fine. So water, I brought Selphie as my support and Garnet and Ferris as my team. Malady and ice, I brought my Ice Stealer Onion Knight, and I brought Zaz as my support, and I brought Lilizette as my debuffer. Magic, I brought Aiko as she's support and magic. I brought Beatrix, and I brought Terra. And melee, I brought Ramza, of course, melee support, Agrias, and Bartz. And so that was kind of my thinking behind those quests, and I did not have, of course, much of a trouble with that. For the 100 level fight, let me pull it up here. I brought Bartz with his EX, Agrias with her EX, Lilizette with a Setzer friend, and I was able to defeat it in 58 turns with a score of 210,000. You need 180,000 to beat that. So remember that two of these bosses, the first and the third, are immune to force, so they are hard to knock back, hard to launch. And so you can launch
hard
them.
to launch by
three of the four. 3 of the 4.
Yes, hard
are
to
immune
launch
force.
by Lael, not hard to launch if you have a automatic launcher. They're immune to force, which means they're immune to Lael's debuff. That's the
You
reason
mean Lael's bullshit?
Yes, they're immune to Lael's bullshit.
There's a reason no one else has the force mechanic.
Yeah. They're like, just to Lael, not to launches. Just Lael.
Yeah, pretty much just.
That might be part of the reason they brought back Cecil's EX, trying to point us towards another launcher and
That's
say,
true,
use this.
right? Exactly, because the launches really do help the score from the Reddit results so far. More than 60% of the clears that got the score used Lael and launches to inflate it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Lael still works, and you can still use Lael against the guys that are immune to force. You just don't debuff them. You just use energy gain over and over and over again. And
I just came to a realization. You know what launcher we're getting this week?
Tifa, right?
Tifa EX launches.
Oh,
and it's on the
Tifa EX is a launcher, yeah.
And
That
she
will be
beats up skeletons.
And she hates skeletons.
Yeah, I told you the ingenious part about these Heretics design is that every new character coming out this month
Yeah.
is greatly favored. because you
Yeah.
got Barett doing whatever he does, party buffs, whatever.
What does
But you have
Barrett
Tifa
do?
EX. He's mostly a buffer, DPS
Barrett
slash
does two
buffer.
things. If you want me to give a preview of my analysis, that's mostly complete.
I think you
Barrett,
should save it till next week. I don't know. Are we having?
yeah.
We're having. Yeah, because we're not going to go.
He's so basic. I can explain it in two things.
But you can. Oh yeah, go ahead then, Kriese.
He brings a massive party aura to attack and max brave, and he does range damage.
Yeah, he is a DPS slash buffer who leans more towards the DPS side, and that's it. But the prize on that banner is Tifa EX, which is the strongest single target damage dealer we'll have for a little bit, even more than Kuja. Kuja's better at AoE for sure, so is Golbez. But Tifa for single target is the best for a while. She also launches, and it charges every 2 to 3 turns. So it's very, very strong. The Heretics seemed almost skewed to her because the final wave, which is arguably, no, it is objectively the one that takes the longest. Every run says the double skeletons at the end take the longest. She'll do skeleton damage, melee damage, and launch.
And fever time bonus, so she'll be doing almost quadruple damage to what her stats should say.
Right, and then you've got Kuja for the Antlion. The magic weak phase, and the final phase has a holy weakness to cancel out the magic weakness. And then you have Quistis to do turn delays, which 2 or 3 of the bosses have bullshit turn mechanics. Kraken gets multiple turns, and he gets his own turn delays. The armor speeds up and gets multiple turns, and the Antlion gets counters all left and right. So Quistis' turn delays will play a huge part as well. So basically, these Heretics are so well designed because if new players are struggling, they can pull on any of these banners and have an infinitely easier time on the score.
There's some questions
Rosa
about
banner?
the statement. There's some questions about the statement you said about Tifa's single damage DPS. On even playing ground, Tifa will probably not do as much damage as perhaps Locke, who would be fully buffed, or Thancred does, if Thancred's conditions are correct. But on the Skull Dragons, since she has melee weakness and skeleton weakness.
So to answer that really quick, is that compared to Thancred and Locke, she takes 0 setup. So
she has to use her focus ability.
She has to use focus, really.
Oh, right, but you can go into a wave with that, right? Whereas you can't go into a wave with poison up. Or Locke needs even more stuff because he needs the target looking away from him and Bahamut summon to make the most of it. Tifa just has to go into a wave with the shout buff on and having used her EX once. Not only that, but again, Tifa increases score with launches, and because of her launch, she can squeeze out more damage from the team. More than Locke and Thancred ever could.
I just want to be clear that the Crystal Chronicles is not endorsing that you pull for Tifa EX any way, shape, or form.
Mino might be endorsing, but the two of us are not.
Go ahead, Mino. Show us we're wrong. Don't pull for Tifa, seriously, though.
Unless you're a huge Tifa fan.
Unless you like Tifa. And
This is next week's episode. We'll argue this next week.
All right. Well, of course, every week our friend Macnol puts together a call to arms and then a video guide talking about various strategies for EXs. It's one of our favorite things that's happened on Reddit in recent years. And Mino and Macnol were talking, and we wanted, because we were seeing a lot of clears with Bart's EX and Agrias EX, we wanted to see if there were some clears without either of those. So I know, Mino, I know you have a couple in our Discord. I have the ones pulled up in the actual call to arms if you want me to highlight those.
I don't have anything specific, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because, as usual, as usual, we'll put it in our written summary that everyone can check out, and in our Discord as well. Please visit our Discord that we'll plug sometime at the end of the show, I think. But the Strafe is a community member who's managed to get 2 separate clears on it.
Yeah.
And there's a Kane clear if you want to give yours some other. Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll find. I have all three of them here.
Sure, go for it.
So again, this is a clear without Bart's EX, without Agrias EX. So there are two that kind of got around that because they used Lightning EX. This is Scryed 51, used Lilizette, Kate Sith, and Lightning with Lael and Pandemonium, 198,066 turns. Very good. I want to save that one because that one is freaking amazing. Then Auto Balance use Lightning, Lilizette, Beatrix, Bahamut with Agrias friend. A lot of people are bringing Agrias as a friend into the final wave, just doing a lot of damage, especially in Bahamut with her abilities. So also, if you use Agrias's EX before the skeletons attack, they silence their all ability, which is nice too. So if you can bring in Agrias into that final wave, use Knight's Honor twice, and then use her EX before they get to act, it's really quite helpful. Well, at least that's mine. And then the one that I thought was truly amazing, Shiro Hack used Kate Sith, Lilizette, and Kane EX. Brothers with a Von friend, 182,000. And I watched this damn video to make sure it was legit. And it is. So, I mean, there are a couple of people that say, I did it with this, I did it with that. I need to see the video to share it on the show. If I don't see a video, I don't necessarily believe it. I watched this video multiple times. This person is very, very good at the game or just got really lucky, but they seem very, very skilled at the game. I appreciate that. Kate Sith, Lilizette, and Kane EX with the brothers Summon and Von. They used Von very, very well, but they used Kane exceptionally well because they manipulated Kane's launches with these characters that were immune to Leo's Force ability to get some very, very good scores with Lilizette and Kate Sith's batteries. So Lilizette and Kate Sith, even their brave attacks are batteries, and so they were able to battery up and use Kane's EX very, very effectively. So awesome work, Shiro. Very good, very good. And I look forward to seeing very, very interesting compositions.
To defend Kane, because better players can squeeze more use out of him than I can. I'm surprised how he made Kane work. Kane's not as useless as everyone says. I want to erase him from the meme status he has in the community. Is that with 2 batteries, he can either cap his Brave with Jump, and he has a pretty decent high Brave, max Brave too. He can cap his Brave with Jump with just on a single battery, or even if he's capped on Brave with batteries, his second skill gives him 150% overflow naturally. So he's adding a ton of damage on his own. And then, as Mark said, there's the launch. So with 2 batteries, he actually works extremely well.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on this last Heretic challenge. Just like the rest of the Heretic wave, I thought it was perfect because right now it seems like there's a small pool of viable characters I can clear, to be honest. The vast majority of clears. So after this content dropped, the subreddit and the Discord, there were a bunch of people saying, oh, this content's so easy. This is boring. This is going to be a boring month. I cleared it in 1 try, and this is a joke. There was something wrong because I had to optimize my run quite a few times before I got my score clear. And I asked Mark to make sure it wasn't just me. And I think Mark also said he had to optimize quite a few times. And some people on our Discord were saying the same. And then lo and behold, more than 12 hours later, suddenly the people saying they can't get the score outnumber the people who said it was a walk in the park by a huge amount. And we found the reason for that. It's because a lot of people were bringing the top meta characters, which were Bartz and Agrias, in one party, and they were annihilating in one go. So actually, all the clears but one used Bartz or Agrias in the main party. And that's why we talked to our partner Macnol, including the challenge in the thread, saying, let's see clears without Bartz or Agrias. Then it became a little harder. We're getting a lot of results, which is good, but it's still not as varied. when people don't use Bart's or Agrius, they're either using Lilithset or Kate Sith in some capacity. So it is still very limited to get the score. And
well, I don't
the
know.
reason
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Mino.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I think this was a very well-designed piece of content because knowing that there's such a small variety of characters that can make this clear so far, it rewards veterans for having built their roster or rewards hardcore players for keeping on top of the meta. And while that might sound controversial, give me a second, it's that people, first of all, veterans have been asking for something like this for a long time, something that rewards their time put into the game. And then the other thing is that, remember, this is month-long content. So veterans and hardcore players get the jump. They can get the clear right away on the first weekend. But this content is going to get easier and easier as the characters keep coming out this month. As we've said, every character coming out this month, every banner coming out this month will make this significantly easier. You could be a new player and just go hard on any banner, and you'll probably be able to clear this by the end of the month. And so it rewards veterans, it rewards pulling this month, and it's not so outrageous that and it's a thing that it's easy to get the complete, as a lot of people said, the initial score without getting the score challenge. So you're getting the bulk of the rewards straight up, and then you're rewarded for either playing well, having collected a vast amount of characters, keeping up with the meta, or pulling this month. So I think that if we got something like this every month, it would be perfect. You're rewarding old players for fast clears. You're incentivizing pulls going forward so people can't hoard till Renoa, has been the mantra on the Discord for a long time. Hoard till Renoa is what everyone's been saying. And it gives people something to strive for. That's all I had to say. What were we going to say, Mark? Sorry.
Well, I mean, there's some conversation about being restrictive. We've had events that you have to have one or two characters to beat the content. That's restrictive. So far, we've seen, Bart's, Agrius, Thancred, Lilizet, Aiko, Kate Sith, Selfie, Ariel, I just said, Maria, Kane, and there's a lot more that we've already. I mean, I've seen Deuce. I don't know who I'm forgetting, but like 15 characters to clear this EX. That's a lot of different combinations of those 15 characters, and that's within the first 24 hours. So I don't think it's really that restrictive. I mean, I think, yes, if you have the meta, the most powerful characters today, sure, you're going to be able to beat it. But, if you get to pick from 20 possible characters who are all fairly relevant for this event, then that's a pretty workable event. It might be tough. That Kane EX did not clear it for 40,000 points, right? It cleared it by 2,000, so it took a few times to get that run down, but it still got it down, and you got 27 days. So, yeah, I think it's a great event. It'll be interesting to see what the next one gets. And we do have a couple things, just breaking news. We have a new banner that is live and a half pull banner, one of our World of Illusions. And this is Cloud's Crimson Edge, which is the one that removes an enemy debuff when you hit it with a critical hit. An enemy buff, excuse me. It debuffs with an enemy with a critical hit. And then you have Hopes, which acts as a personal buff to his abilities. So if you like Hope and Cloud, they're interesting. Clouds is interesting. So, it might be worth a half off pull if you're interested in those. And we did get the first of 4 Crossroad of Illusions co-ops. These are World of Illusion co-ops, which means everyone is synergy. So if you look and go through the list, every single character is synergy in this World of Illusion co-op. So have fun. And the bosses are a Chimera, who's weak to fire, and a Lich. also weak to fire. So Papa Lamo, I don't know. Who else does fire? VV? I'm going to bring VV in. See how that goes. Papa Lamo, VV. Anybody else does fire? Just massive
Vincent.
damage.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a
Vincent.
bunch.
Oh. I don't know if these are just one
But
boss at a time.
Oh yeah, Jacked. Oh, that's a big one.
Oh, Jack.
oh yeah, I'm
Nice.
bringing Jack all week.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this is something that people have been theorizing, that everyone would be synergy for this co-op,
Yeah.
which is such a good thing too, because if you've been on the subreddit the last few days, there's another big thread that blew up for the 100th time about synergy boosted only in co-op. Again, people are imploring Square Enix make boosted only rooms accessible to boosted characters only. They really are pushing for that. But with everyone's synergy, that drama's averted, and you can bring everyone and have fun with your roster, which seems to be the theme for this month's Heretics.
So interesting, if you look in the Crossroads of Illusion token shop, you have your normal gems, tickets, Dissidia points, potions, armor tokens, and then you have artifacts for Cloud and Hope and nobody else. And this is not the Crossroads of Illusion 1 shop. This is just the Crossroads of Illusion shop. So I would imagine that you will see updates to the Crossroads of Illusion shop as the month goes by, with additional things to buy as the month goes by. So you might want to hold on to...
That sounds reasonable, yeah.
You might want to hold on to some of your extra gems before you start shoving them into crystals. Just to see what happens, if there's going to be 4 different token shops or just one token shop which they add on to, and that's what I would guess.
According to the announcement, it will be one single token shop that will be available for the whole month. So probably they will add to it as it goes on. Maybe just Adogas for the other banner characters.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll add some extra items to buy. But this is a pretty standard co-op shop for a special event.
It's only the second day of May, but wow, I am blown away by this month's content, honestly. When they said they'd be focusing more on GL exclusives than catching up to JP, I was not happy, but if they keep this quality up going forward, wow, this is really good stuff. I'm really impressed with GL's dev team. On another note, I did my half-off pull and got Hope 15 and Cloud 15, so that is not
Why
cool.
did you do that?
I wanted Cloud's World of Illusion weapon.
I did the same thing as Mino, and I got Cloud 15 and Hope 35, so I now have an MLB Hope.
At least you got a better deal than I did. I told myself one pull for Cloud's World of Illusion. It's good. It's not necessary. So I'm not going to chase it anymore until it comes back in the token shop, because if I want a Dispeller, I'm not going to lean hard on Cloud. It's a nice bonus, but it's not necessary. So half off pull is all they got, and I got screwed.
I'm in the same boat. I thought it would be cool, but especially going forward, having Cloud be able to dispel things on demand with the passive would be nice, but it's not going to make or break him.
I'm going to hold on to my 2,500 gems.
Just a drop in the bucket for the miserly Mark.
Zero Lancer says, Mark, please ban Kriese and Mino from the show for this blasphemy.
Can't do that. But yeah,
we're here to stay.
There's a reason I have more gems than them. So
because you don't pull on anything.
I
don't pull on anything.
I instantly regret my pull because I'm not even at 75k pity rate yet.
What do you need?
I wanted to be there for Lena.
No,
I'm gonna blame the 3.5 shots of whiskey I've had now.
You got plenty of time
pouring
for
myself
Lena. Plenty of time for Lena.
Yeah, but I also want an excess for Vayne, who's another. I don't know. Whatever.
You got 2 months for Vayne. You're fine. Don't worry about it. More than that, maybe. It's gonna be a lot. You got plenty of time. All right. Speaking of gotcha and polls, our friend Josepher, who is doing videos on YouTube, is on our Discord. Also on Twitch, I believe. I don't know if he's on Twitch or not. Yeah, he's on Twitch. Josepher is a big fan of Final Fantasy. Does a lot with the the Final Fantasy trading card game. But he has been doing some great videos on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. He's also a brave Exvius player. So in response to a article we talked about on Reddit a couple months ago, called A Whale of a Tale, about a person who spent perhaps way too much money on a gotcha game, and some of the consequences of that. Um, Josepher wanted to put together a little video about how do you deal with gotcha. And so I encourage you, it's about a 20-minute video. It's on YouTube. I encourage you to go check out the video. I will put the link in Twitch right now. This is an excellent, excellent video. I just really, 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 really appreciated everything he had to say. He actually gave some really good advice, coming from a psychology background and someone who studied addiction considerably. He gave some very, very practical and very good advice about how to deal with gotcha if it's got you, kind of going out of control in terms of your spending or anything else. So, yeah, so I encourage everybody to do that, to go check that out and support Josepher. We're talking about trying to get him on the show as a guest host to talk about a couple things, but he's in a different time zone, and so it's kind of up in the air for now, but we'll try to see if we can do that. So my question for you... Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I said with Pierre, sorry, I'm getting a lot of lag. Pierre, you're going to have a hell of a time editing all of this. But with Pierre gone, Mark and I have been talking about rotating in other streamers, because that's something the community has been asked for and something other streamers have been asking us for. I know Broadway and Josepher are ones that really want to have asked about coming on the show. Chris said that he is down to come on anytime, and I'm going to take him up on that offer because he always streams the same times we do, and stealing his viewers would be a great boon to this podcast. But I lost my train of thought. I'm getting too drunk. Mark, back to you.
Yes. So, how do you approach? If you haven't seen the video, you can. If you have seen the video, you can comment on that. But how do you approach gotcha? I mean, what's your mentality when it comes to actually spending money on the game or just pulling in general? He gave a couple different kind of personality traits. In terms of, somebody who's just pulling for fun, somebody who's pulling for meta, somebody who pulls to keep up with the competition. Well, where do you guys find yourself in this idea of playing a gotcha game?
Kriese first.
Sure, I'm kind of in the middle. I pull for favorites, and I also pull for characters that I feel will let me keep up with the competition. I do a little bit of both. I try to balance it between the two. So, for example, I pulled for Locke, even though I didn't think he would be an amazing character and he might not last long. I wanted him. He's one of my favorite characters, so I pulled for him. I also pulled for Thancred because he was a favorite. He happened to also be considered meta at the time we ended up getting him. I pulled for Garnet because she was considered not great, not potentially great for a long period of time. Turned out we were wrong. She was usable. But for the most part, I try to pull for characters I like, but I pulled for Selphie just because the only reason I pulled for Selphie is because I was told ahead of time that she would be an amazing character, and it turned out to be right. So I try to balance it so I pick meta characters and favorites. That's bitten me in the ass a couple times. For example, I missed enough characters last month that I felt like I was really behind when Agrius came around, and I fell into a couple of the traps that Josepher highlights in his videos. So watch his video. I saw some of those behaviors popping up in me where I rage pulled for Agrius. I've mentioned this a couple of times now. That was a weak point, and I regretted doing it almost immediately because it didn't pay out, and I don't know if I would have been happy even if it did pay out.
I'm glad you went first. That was very good insight. Let me address the chat. I'll go second because Mark is the best player here, I think, so he should go last. First of all, Kriese, as CSAM says in chat, your polling strategy should be null and void because you get everything. I think
I am a
Kriese
lucky
has.
asshole. Yes.
I think Kriese has like 15 plus EXs at this point.
I am at 16 or 17 now.
16 or 17 EXs. I think there's only been like 30 EXs,
there's
so
only
Kriese should be
18.
completely ignored. He says he regrets pulling randomly. He regrets shotgun pulling, which is 2 or 3 pulls a banner, and he has more than half the EXs available in the game. So everything he said should just be invalidated right
That's
now.
hilarious.
But
I have 11. How many do you have, Mino?
I'm at 8.
Yeah, there you go.
But one of them's a pity. How many of yours were pity? Kriese, how many pities do you have?
I have 0 pity weapons, and I'm at 17 EXs.
Boom! Mark, how many pities do you have?
I have not pitied anything.
I have 8 with a pity, so a very famous pity that was on stream. Anyways, back to chat. Erolai says, Erolai is a great community regular of ours who is in the lead for most diverse clears of endgame content, along with Dekrith and Amaterasu. So I think her opinion is going to be very valuable here. She says, I just like pulling and collecting in this game, but basically everything I want super badly at this point is coming up. So now I'm finally saving for my faves. Yeah, as we've highlighted before, this summer is going to be very enticing because so many strong and unique characters are coming up that are all viable. So this has been the biggest test. Either if you're a hoarder, this is going to be a hell of a summer because you'll want everything. If you're a shotgun puller like Kriese, if you get anything these 3 months, you'll be set. So you're fine. Illuminasa says, I sit in the middle, favorites in meta. Zero Lancer says, not going to lie, skipping a lot of banners, taking a break forced me to be selective, and it's paid off moving forward. Lots of people stating a bunch of their EXs here. It's all over the place. It goes anywhere from 17. Apparently, there's multiple people who have more than 17 EXs. I think Square Enix should ban them because I think they're breaking the formula and getting more than they should at this point.
For every bad luck person like you, Mino, there has to be a bad luck person.
I want to say I'm bad luck, but there's people on our server who have worse luck than me, which is very sad.
That is true, yeah.
But many people in our chat right now say they're averaging around 8 to 10 EXs. There are people on the lower end, like Star Shadow at 6 and so on, but they also admittedly have pulled on less banners because they're gunning for their desired EXs hard. So I've been preparing for this question all week and I've been talking in Discord way too much about it. I said that you should budget for gacha like you budget in real life is my philosophy, where you set aside a set amount for necessities like bills and utilities and rent or whatever, and then the remainder should go to luxuries. So in DFFOO terms, that means for me, it means saving 75k gems every 2 months for a meta character, and then blowing the rest on whatever the hell I want. I say that because I believe one meta character every 2 months will carry you, and there's always a chance you get lucky and you don't need to spend all 75k of those gems. Also, at the rate we're going, we're averaging roughly 100k gems every 2 months. 50k gems a month to be generous. Some months go over that, some months go under that. I believe Mark said he always does a count, because on some of our lower months we're in the low 40ks.
I believe last month, April was our lowest month with 43,400 gems. That was our lowest month. And that's confirmed.
Our lowest.
That's me and I forget the guy's name who does it on Reddit, but that was confirmed. We confirmed that together. So,
right. So keeping a count, our worst months, we get about 43k free-to-play gems. And there's been plenty of times where we have a celebration or something where we go over 60k. So I'd like to say the average every month is about 50k, 100k for 2 months. So every 2 months, you should be able to afford a meta unit and put something in the bank for a favorite. And that's how I play. I feel like right now I'm planning a for sure pull every 2 months, and then I'm shotgun pulling everything else, or saving for a big favorite like Jekt, who is not necessarily meta. Um, I mean, I feel like it all comes down to budgeting and financing, and this is a good way to play it. We've heard stories from every which way. I've heard from people on our server who say they only pull for meta, and sometimes that sucks because a lot of the meta only pullers are saying save until Renoa, which is, and they've been saying that for months. So it's like 2 or 3 entire months of saving, and they've admittedly struggled on some content because they don't want to pull for characters that only last a month. And that's a very uneven experience, in my opinion. When you pull the meta, you'll have a blast for a short while, but then it's back to suffering until the next meta character. And then there's people like, sorry to name names if this is offensive, but I know Amons gave a good speech on our Discord server earlier today saying that they only pull for favorites, and Erole as well, and that sometimes they've come to realize that they need a meta character every once in a while to supplement that. That because they've only been pulling for favorites, they regret it because they haven't been able to do a good amount of content because of that. So I feel like the balance really is set aside a certain amount for a meta every period, every 2 months or so, and then pull on whatever you want. You should be able to enjoy the game without only running for the meta, and you need to clear content so you can pull for favorites. That's my final takeaway. Also, reminder that Kriese is the worst because he got me to spend 50 game than I ever wanted to, and I never used him in any single piece of content.
That's your fault. You could have definitely used him for
No,
content.
how dare you? How dare you, Kriese?
Did
Mark,
you bring
ban him
him?
from the show.
Did you bring Kane for Locke EX when it had a ranged
Could've-
weakness?
Could have used Kane.
Did, and I failed. We had this talk already. I brought Kane to Locke EX, and I failed the score by about 20k. Then I replaced him with Bartz, and I got about 30k higher score. And then I replaced Aiko with Lillicet, and I got another 20k higher score. So, I mean, Kane works.
So
People
what you're
have been
saying
using
is you
Kane.
made a bad team around Kane, and you're blaming Kane for it. Well, what you're really doing is blaming me for Kane not being able to complete it.
Yes, but the point is, I blame you. Okay, moving on.
I think there's no wrong way to budget for this game as long as you have a plan and you have a budget. And I think that's the most important takeaway from Josepher and Mino and Mark, and not so much me, is budget, plan accordingly, do not break your budget, because if you do, that's when you start slipping and get into dangerous territory and spend money you should not be or cannot.
So Mark, you are, in my opinion, the most successful of us because you get the meta characters, and not only do you clear all content. So Kriese, to give a background, Kriese has struggled with some of the endgame content. He hasn't cleared everything 100%. I've cleared everything 100%, but Mark clears everything 100% with higher scores than me. So what is your winning formula here, Mark?
Well, I famously have my pulls planned out until the end of the year, so that
You
helps.
son of a bitch.
Yeah, I literally have a spreadsheet, assuming that I'm going to pity certain characters and figuring out who I can pity and who I can't. I have it planned out, kind of with a very low estimate for free gems and also paid gems. I am not a free to play player. I budget about $70
a month, right?
Yeah,
like me.
About 18,000 paid gems a month.
Yes.
Right.
So we're saying if you average 100k every 2 months, Mark and I are getting an extra 40k on top of that. So we're getting a free pity every 3 or so months.
Yeah, my low estimate is 63,000 gems a month. Paid and free. So that will be increasing with summon boards, but for right now, I think that's a very conservative estimate. Yeah, and I I pull on characters that I really like. Now, there are some favorites that I'll pass on just because they get an EX. I'll be happy to pass on them. But thankfully, some of my favorite characters, Kuja, Kistis, Renoa, coming up here in this next month and a half. Those are three of my favorite characters, and they are very good, and I'll pull on them happily. And I will plan to pity them. I won't generally speaking pull for an EX if I don't have resources to pity for it, unless I'm using tickets. And moving forward, I'm really only planning to use tickets on kind of time travelers, kind of surprises, that kind of stuff. So that's really my plan. Regardless of what your thought on pitying is, I would not ever encourage anyone to spend money because you're pulling for something, if that makes sense. Like I said, I've budgeted an amount of money that I'm going to spend on this game every month. I view that as an investment for this game, not necessarily, so I try to avoid the gambling aspect by negating it. And you can do that in this game because there's a pity system. In some games, there's not a pity system. For example, FFRK, the entire time I played it, didn't have a pity system. And so you could just continue to spend and spend. Oh, and I don't have any more gems for a pull or mithril for a pull. So now I'm going to go spend on gems. Pull, didn't get anything. Spend more gems. Pull, didn't get anything. As Pierre famously said, that's how I spent $500 pulling for one weapon I didn't even get. That's not a good way to approach these games unless you have a lot of resources and you don't mind spending it. I think regardless, when it comes to gambling, which in general I'm fairly opposed to, but when it comes to gambling, I think, hey, if you're going to go to the riverboat, say this is how much I'm taking, and if I win any more, I can spend it, or if I win any more, I'm going to keep that and just spend this money that I brought. I think that's the best way to approach it. When it comes to your health and well-being, I will say that's my PSA. But I do encourage everyone to check out Josepher's video. Really, really good stuff. So looking ahead, we have... go ahead.
Mark. Sorry. One last thing I want to add to this is that, again, I find myself complimenting this game way too much this month. But speaking of what Mark just said, is that DFFOO is the only game where you can guarantee something with a certain amount. Mark and I experiment with a bunch of gatcha on the side. We just picked up a new one earlier this week, and it just always highlights how good DFFOO is, because in no other gatcha can you plan like this. Like, even although other gachas have pities, their pities are something on the banner, whereas in DFFOO is you pick exactly what you want to get. So I'm saying I just got to give another shout out and more praise to DFFOO, is that the reason this has been the gacha that I've stuck with the longest and become a content creator for is because I just think it's so generous. Not saying the gem rates are great. I definitely feel like out of all the gacha games I've ever played, I get the most out of my money, which is why I'm the most willing to spend my money. And also, again, the fact that you can guarantee a certain weapon and plan around it going forward more than 6 months before JP got that ability means it is actually possible to be free to play and guarantee a success plan for this entire game. And we should be glad we're behind JP by this much so we can plan ahead. But this is a godsend for anyone that doesn't play gacha games. This is unheard of, to guarantee anything you want.
Just to touch on this, I don't think it's just the gacha rates that keep me around. It's the fact that the game is actually fun to play. In a lot of gacha games I've played, I did not have fun.
Right.
Mark used the example of Record Keeper. That turned around the time I left the game into a mess with the speed just enough so you can do just enough damage before the boss kills you at the point I was leaving. And that was right around Chain Soul Breaks being released. And I saw the game just keeping going towards that spiral where debuffs were useless because bosses, at the best, reduced their effectiveness. At the worst, straight out were vulnerable to them, which meant your only recourse was to just do damage and pray you killed it.
Yeah.
There was no strategy. It was just do enough damage, and if you don't do enough damage, you lose.
Yeah, it really didn't matter necessarily what the boss was. It was just about your team composition. Yeah. and
Yeah,
which
and
soul breaks you had.
and as people are saying in chat, um, there's always complaints about DFFOO being greedy and wanting your pulls and money. I mean, it's a business. I think that's pretty standard. It's just that as someone who's played tons and tons of gotcha games, this seems to be the least greediest. And as Macnell here says, honestly, I'm a huge fan of solid turn-based combat, and nothing has this game beat. As much as I want to leave this game, and I buy single-player RPGs all the time, this has really good system underlying it, and it feels like they like to give you all the. As another casual friend of mine who plays this game says that he's like, they have EX tokens and weapon tokens, which means basically if you play long enough, you can get anything you want. Technically speaking, not saying you keep up with the meta, but they give you the means to get anything you want free to play as long as you play long enough, which I feel no other gotcha game does.
Yeah. Well, that's why we do a podcast on this game, because we like it. So next week we have another set of Heretics coming. The co-op launch tonight. We have a Barett event, and we have Kuja Lost Chapters. So Barett should be on Sunday. Kuja is going to be next Wednesday. So we've already talked about Barett. He has some nice auras. He can do slightly better auras than Bart's. And, you know, if you have all of Bart's gear and passives and all of Barrett's gear and passive, Barett does a little bit more buffing than Bart's, but doesn't do any of the other things that Bart's does. And he does range damage and does not have his EX. Tifa will have the EX on that banner. Then we're going to get Kuja on... Aminosa, that we are guessing that silhouette is Barett. It might be Hope in a power suit with a gun arm. I don't know. Just maybe a I'm very sorry about spoiling that.
I'm not sure if there's any other gun arm characters in the history of Final Fantasy.
Well, I think Kaze the Black Wind had a mag gun attached to his arm. His arm was in there, but the gun was over his arm. So yes, Dine from Final Fantasy VII. It's probably him. I
thought it was the Hulk for a second.
Yeah,
endgame crossover.
Probably an endgame Hulk crossover. It is Gray Hulk with a gun arm. So yeah, very nice. With the glove, with Thanos' glove. There you go, Infinity Gauntlet. So there's some spoilers for you if you didn't see that part of that. So, so we already talked about Barett, and then Kuja's coming with a new costume and Yuna costume. If you didn't get it, the tiny butterflies, the gunner costume. So it'd be interesting to see. In Japan, Yuna was one of those characters that got special artifact passives that were very, very good. We don't expect to get those as artifact passives.
I don't know if it's that we don't expect to get them. We don't know if we're getting them.
We don't know. Right.
They have not spoken out about those characters at all. They haven't even mentioned them in any of the content so far.
So it'll be interesting to see if Yuna, anything happens with her or not. I don't know. But Kuja is very powerful. And we were just looking at his kit again. And it's ridiculous.
Kuja
it's ridiculous.
Kuja's ridiculous. It's a good way to put it. He is going to be top damage for this month.
I wanna I know we're gonna go in depth next week for sure, but to touch on some of what Kriese and Mark has said is that the Adoja reworks for the characters that are super behind and JP is balanced from going forward, we're gonna start seeing in the next month. Yuna being the first. And Sarah coming up as well next month when Ultimate Ifrit drops. The thing is that in JP with their artifacts, they are amazing. Without their artifacts, they are complete trash. GL seems to have skipped over their artifacts, so we can only suppose. Oh, sorry. Kriese says Sarah is also on the Quistis LC. So these guys are people who got reworks and are being featured very soon. We have no idea what GL is going to do because the artifact doja balancing was terrible. People hated it. If GL finds a way to give us these in some form of a rework, which we have our fingers crossed for, we would love them. But we don't know if their dojas are going to be dropping on their event or what they're going to do. So I'm sure we're going to have a shit ton of talk about next week when Yuna shows up and she's supposed to have her reworks already. But for example, Sarah was a meta shaper in JP when her EX dropped with her artifacts. If she doesn't get that in GL, she's going to be trash and no one's going to want her. Right now, again, in JP on EX Plus, she's very viable again. But again, thanks to her artifacts. So however GL handles this is going to be groundbreaking, and I'm very looking forward to it. But I hope they say something soon. I know a lot of people were hoping they said something on their last live stream that what they were planning to do with these. But GL might be a very, very different landscape for it. And the last thing I want to say also, again, we're going to cover more in depth next week, is that there's a lot of talk about Kuja, whether he's worth it or not. I think Kuja's a very good character, but I also don't think any single character is going to make or break your roster. And that's the last I have, unless I know Mark and Kriese, please comment on that as well.
On Kuja specifically, or just about what?
Characters going for, like, meta characters being maker. Like, Kuja's very strong. You're going to love it if you get him, but it's very okay not to get him, is what I'm trying to say.
At the current difficulty of content, Kuja is not required. He will make things a lot easier, but he is not required. And that raises the question, are we going to see content that is harder, that will require characters like Kuja to show up? And I think we're in a current state where we do not know right now. We don't know what the next Heretic, the Theta Heretic, is going to look like. It might be the same difficulty. It might be harder. We also don't know what's going to happen with Yuna. I'm going to make a wild prediction now and say we are not getting surprise a doja artifacts for her and artifact passives. They would have announced that. If anything, we're either getting nothing for Yuna or she might get a surprise rework.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, I think we get a dojas on there. Oh shit, there's no co-op for the LC, right? You're right.
It's World of Illusion only.
Ah, shit. God. Well, if we get a dojas in the World of Illusion, that's actually a step up from the co-op, in my opinion. As we've talked about before, World of Illusion lets you farm endlessly at no pressure. Co-op means you have to be present with 2 other people and spend bells, which is a much more limited resource than potions. So if they go that route, which is my guess, I'm going to play the conservative guess and say they're going to throw the dojas at us. Because how else are they going to balance this? The characters are balanced around having 2 or 3 of those dojas. If we're given those passives automatically, because I think they got, 2 or 3 new passives, artifact passives. So if we're given all 3 automatically and we can throw extra artifact like Max Brave and Attack on that, then we get a much stronger version than JP does.
I suspect that if we get a rework of these characters that kind of get around the dojas, we're going to get something that bakes in some of the benefits of the dojas without the full benefit of getting 3 copies of it. So maybe on the level of 1, 1.5 to 2, depending on the strength of those passives, to make them good for the current environment without making them hilarious depending on your luck.
I think unless there's significant changes, a significant rework to these characters, Sarah, Vivi, Yuna. There was 8 or so characters in that list that got
6.
these 6 of those. Okay, 6 characters.
Lion, Cater, Vivi, Yuna, Aerith, and
I think they're very significant. I think they give something like 40% or each artifact. So I'm saying, like, if with full artifacts they give like 120% max brave, but they balance it like Kriese says, they give us 1.5 or 1, which is 40 or 60%, then our versions are never going to be as strong as the JP versions. So either they give us the doja system as it is, so it's the same, but if they nerf it, then these characters will never be as good as they will be in JP, period.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think you're more likely to see. Either they're going to have to rework these characters and give us something better than they got in JP. So even in Japan, these characters were never particularly viable. Yes, Sarah had some time. Yuna had some time with her EX. But at the end of the day, even them, they didn't get great use.
Specifically, Sarah is supposed to be a meta shaper. When she got her X, she was super good for
A little bit.
But
about
that's because she got an Awakening rework plus the A dojas
Yeah.
plus a powerful EX weapon. She got the
Right.
whole package.
Yeah, so but I mean like people leaned hard on her for a while. For like 2 months she was a high to top tier character. But you're right. I mean GL is a different game, as they've said. We'll probably have to find different strategies
Yeah.
if they go that route.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a big question mark for us. They could do all sorts of things, and I think that's what we need to keep in mind is they have not said what they're going to do with them. They haven't mentioned them in any breath, and we just need to assume anything can happen with them.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on this week's episode of the Crystal Chronicles. We will be coming back here hopefully next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time on Twitch Live. But we may change that up as we're trying to do some work with Josepher, as he's a big Kuja fan. Thought it would be nice to have him on, and we want to get some time zone stuff figured out. So just keep track of when we are streaming, and the best way to do that is you can go to our website, tccpodcast.com. That is www.tccpodcast.com, The Crystal Chronicles. You can like our Facebook page at FFTCC Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FFTCC Podcast. You can join us on Twitch at The Crystal Chronicles at www.twitch.tv/The Crystal Chronicles. You can find us on YouTube at a link that is not convenient, or you can join our Discord, and I'll share that in the Twitch chat. Come and join our Discord. You can find all those links on our website, www.tccpodcast.com. Special thank you to Pierre, who is our producer and does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work for us, even though he's not playing the game. So thank you, Pierre. And for myself and Mino Spellgood and Kriese, a.k.a. Zerink, this has been episode 52 of the Crystal Chronicles. Next week, there's a lot to talk about, and this week, there's a lot to pull on. So for all of us, we say good night and good luck.